Good evening, Weeble. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes for other people to turn up. But yeah, I thought to myself tonight, after last night, let's actually do a setup guide. And Weeble, you was here last night for Commodore. Well, one of the systems I'm going to show you how to set up tonight in Retroarch is actually C64. And I'm also going to do a bit more of an advanced system like PS1. So I'm going to be showing you an entire setup guide. I'm going to be going through how to make your own custom background in Retroarch, how to change the default layout and use something like XMB, which looks a bit more modern. I'm going to be showing you how to change icons rather than using default icons. Made a little list here, so it's going to be a fairly long setup guides. I just thought, let's do something a little bit different. So I'm also going to be showing you how to download some free games in Retroarch. And there's surprisingly some really good titles in Retroarch which are free to download. Going to be showing you how to apply mega bezels. Also how to enable cheats. Theme, background, I've already said, icons, obviously how to import your games into Retroarch. Looking at shaders as well to enhance the look of games, and of course PS1 install and C64 install. But generally with Retroarch, the process of installing games, importing games is all the same up until you get to a bit more complex systems such as the equivalent of, well, definitely American Laserdisc games. And just remember that Retroarch is limited to systems that it supports. So things like Technoparrot, PlayStation 3, Retroarch don't support those as of yet. So for emulators such as Technoparrot, you need the standalones for that. Just like something like Retrobat, if you want to use Technoparrot in Retrobat, you need to install that externally. Blown away with AGS. AGS? I'm not sure what that is. AGS, or am I losing the plot? So what I'm going to do tonight, anyways, is yeah, just wait a couple more minutes, see if anyone else turns up. And yeah, what I'm going to do is go slow pace like I would during the videos I upload. AGS launcher. You know what? I'm losing the plot, Weeble. I just don't remember. AGS, AGS. No, I just don't remember that. As you know, I've done so many setup guides in the past. AGS. You know what? Whilst we're waiting, what I'm actually going to do is check what you mean out. So AGS emulator, download Adventure Get. No, no, I've never done that one. I don't know, but I'm sure Weeble, what you're saying is right. Oh, Amiga Game Selector. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Amiga Game Selector really is amazing. It's a good system. So that's on the Mini Amiga or the A500, and pretty sure I did that on Windows PC as well. I'm pretty sure I did, but yeah, it's one of the best out there for Amiga. Okey dokes. So whereabouts are you, Weeble? I forgot. I think someone said the other day they was in Scotland watching me. I don't think it was you though. And pretty sure someone else said they were in Southampton. I could be wrong. Okay, anyways, let's get on with this because I did set this to go at 10 o'clock. It's now 6 minutes past 10. Coventry, that's the one. Yeah, you did tell me the other day. And yeah, I did mention I bumped into someone from Coventry in a local shop the other day. Okay, so let's start with this then. So, what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to download Retroarch. So normally in my videos, I go for the portable version of Retroarch, which is the download versions just here. Don't think I've ever actually done a setup guide with the installer versions. So, Weeble, since you're the only one chatting to me here, what do you want me to do? The portable version of Retroarch or installer? Hello, Donovan again. All right. Okay. So, yeah, Donovan, I was just saying, literally about to start off the Retroarch setup guide. So, all right. What I'm asking is portable. Okay. Let's go for portable then. So I'm sure you've seen it in my videos, but I'm going to do this like I would in my videos. Apart from there's going to be no editing in this. If I mess something up, I mess it up. So I can't obviously edit live stuff. Right, so we got 64-bit and we got 32-bit. Now, I'm sure I've already showed you this in videos then. Easiest way to find out is open up search bar, type in system information, and bear in mind I'm using Windows 11 for this, so if you're using Windows 10, or, you know, some people's actually still using XP out there for emulation, and it's been so long since I used XP, I'm not sure how to get the system information from there. So anyways, Windows 11, system type 64 base PC. So I've got a 64-bit processor. If it's a 32-bit computer you've got, then it's going to say times 86. So I'm going to download the 64-bit portable version then, in this case. Now, everything I'm doing here is pretty much in real time. So as you can see, that's just downloaded. Now, I'm using WinRAR, but there's different extraction tools out there you can download. But personally, I think the free version of Retroarch is the best. Believe it or not, Donovan, people are still using XP. It was my first proper introduction to Windows years ago. And there's probably people out there still using Windows 3.1, more than likely. So we're going to open up Retroarch. And here we go. If we just extract this onto the desktop then. So yeah, 7-zip is also fine. It's pretty much the same sort of thing, I suppose. Okay, so we're just going to wait for this one to extract. And what I'm going to do whilst this is extracting, I'm just going to connect my Google Stadia controller to the computer. Yeah, Google Stadia wasn't very... But if you happen to have one of these controllers, you can actually convert it to use as a regular controller. I did a setup guide on that ages ago, but it's not a bad controller. Okay, so if I just go to search, type in Bluetooth and other devices settings. Windows 7, I remember when that came out. I think it was Windows 7 which introduced that really glossy effect. And it seemed good at the time, but obviously if you're a gamer, all those glossy effects and all your stickers and everything else on your desktop is seriously taking up system resources. And I did find, at the time playing the original Far Cry, that Far Cry started to lag a lot. And of course, it's the processes going on in the background. And really any PC gamer will know that having lots of fancy stuff on your desktop and processes running in the background is going to interrupt Fluid's gameplay. So Yeah, it wasn't the greatest idea, and then Vista was pretty similar to that, I suppose. Okay, so connect a new device. So what I'm going to do, just remove this, add device, Bluetooth. And yeah, you can obviously see the picture up here. This is me and my son. Um, Unfortunately, I'm not going to say anything actually, but let's just say I don't see my son too much, and yeah, the mother's to blame for that. But yeah, it's not really a retro gaming thing, is it, to say? So okay, so we got Stadia, and we're now connecting that. Okie dokes. Yeah, Donovan 4. Um, how to install Windows 98 in Retroarch. I don't think you can. Oh, Ravi Singh, or do you mean you're using Windows 98 and you want to install Retroarch on it? Yeah, so PlayStation controllers, there's a bit of a process to install them onto PCs or laptops on Windows. There's a particular driver you need to download. I know this because I was using a PS3 controller a couple of years ago on my laptop, and I realised that it wouldn't plug and play. PS5 might be different, but I'm not sure. But for PS3 controllers, there was a particular driver you had to download and install. Okay, so anyway, let's get on with this. So we just extracted Retroarch, and this is the portable version. So what we're going to do first of all is just scroll down, and we're going to find retroarch.exe. We just And here we go. So, as a lot of you is probably aware, Retroarch by default opens up into a window mode, which is very annoying, but there you go. So I'm using my Google Stadia controller at this point, and what I'm doing with this is just using my D-pad to go up and down. Now, if you've got a keyboard and you want to use your keyboard, then you can press your page up and page down to scroll up and down. Right will take you over to the panel on the right hand side, and obviously left or home button is going to take you back to the other side. So what I'm going to do first of all is actually turn this into full screen mode. So I'm going to use my D-pad, and I'm going to go to settings, go across down to video, and then we're going to scroll down to the fourth option, which is full screen mode. If I press A on my controller, now to start full screen mode, if I press A, and here we go. So we're in full screen mode now, but I think what I'm going to do for the rest of this setup guide is actually put this back to window mode. But anyway, the general idea is to start in full screen mode, make sure this one's turned on. If you back out of here, and again, what we're going to do from there is just go down to configuration file and always save things in Retroarch. So save current configuration. So if you press A on that, that's going to save the settings for full screen mode. So every time you boot into Retroarch from then on, it will go straight into full screen. But like I say, for me, I'm going to use window modes for this. So I'm going to go back to settings, video, and I'm going to go down to full screen mode and press my A button on start in full screen mode. So yeah, Donovan, DS4 Windows, that's the one. Weeble, my old PC wasn't Windows 11 compatible without the workaround. Okay. Okie dokes, how many people have we got here? Okay. Okay, so let's get on with this. What we're going to do next then is, now that we've got this set up in full screen mode, or you should do, like, you know, I'm doing this in Windows, we need to download something called cores in Retroarch. So the way I explain cores are the equivalent of emulators. Let's just look at Retroarch as a front end, and let's just pretend the cores are the emulators you use in the front end. So we need to download cores, and for this I'm obviously going to be using PS1, and I'm going to be doing C64 or Commodore 64. So to download these cores, I'm going to go down to Online Updater, press A, and then Core Downloader, again, press A on this one. You know what, Donovan? I think there is a shortcut key for full screen and normal screen. I can't think for the life of me what it is, but I know there is. Yeah. So anyways, Core Downloader. So I'm going to start this setup guide with Sony PlayStation 1, PS1 or PSX. So these are your cores, and we're going to look for Sony PlayStation. So everything's in alphabetical order. Now we got Sony PlayStation, Beetle, PSX, HW. We got Beetle PSX, which is a very good core and very comparable with Swan Station, which is what I'm going to use for this setup guide. So I'm going to download this core, Swan Station. And once it's been downloaded and installed, you'll see a green hashtag like the one I've just seen appear. What this does is literally installs it. So if we go into the core folder in Retroarch, we'll find in the core folder Swan Station. But anyways, as long as it's got the green hashtag, that's all we need to worry about for now. So if I press B to come out and B again, configuration file, save current configuration. Actually, Donovan, it was called DuckStation up until about 2.5, 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure it was called DuckStation in Retroarch, but I think there was some sort of disagreement with the devs behind Retroarch and the devs behind DuckStation. So I read about it a little while back, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was DuckStation, but now you just got Swan Station. So we're going to save current configuration. Now, next thing we're going to do is take a look at games for this. So I'm going to just close out of Retroarch, just go to quit. Now, what I tend to do is go into my Retroarch portable folder, and I'm going to create a folder in here, and right click, new folder, and I'm going to just call this folder games or ROMs, whatever you like to call it. And I'm going to go into that games folder and drag my PS1 games folder inside. And I'm going to smarten this one up. So show more options, rename, and I'm going to call this PS1 so it's easily identifiable. In my PS1 folder, I got two games here. We got Rayman, which is a European version, and R-Type Delta, which is European. Now, these are in .bin and .q files. Now, if you watch some of my setup guides, you'll know that I'm always encouraging people to convert .bin and .q files to CHD. So CHD, man, is a tool you can actually change your bin and q files into CHD. This is going to give you more space, significant amount more space, in fact. So CHD man website can be found just here, wikirecalbox.com. Literally just type into Google CHD man and it will likely be your first result. If we just scroll down, we got chdman.zip. Just download this one. And we're going to extract this. If I just make a new folder on my desktop, new folder, chdman, then just extract those chdman files into that folder. Okie dokes, minimize web browser. So the way to do this is I'm going to start with R-Type Delta. If we go in there, I'm going to open up CHDman, and it's the top two files we need. If I press Control and left click on CHDman and the next one down, QGDI ISO to CHD BAT, I'm going to make a copy of these and paste those two files in with R-Type Delta. And the way to convert is just go up to the .bat file, double left click, and this is going to bring up a terminal or a console, as some people refer to this as. And as we can see just here, it's now compressing the bin and Q files. Some games will take longer than others to compress, and some will be very quick to do. But like I say, the whole point of CHD is literally to help you save space on your hard drive, and it's better than having lots of unnecessary files if we can help it. So once it's finished converting, CHDman or the terminal is going to disappear. That just means it's done its job. Now, as we can see in the R-Type Delta folder, we got .chd, which means it's done its job, and yeah, it's done. So what I'm going to do is just delete everything but the R-Type Delta.chd. That's now gone. Now, we've got the game itself, and it's good to go pretty much, but I've also got the Rayman game. So again, what I need to do to convert this is qman, chdman.exe, next file down. And what I'm going to do with this is just copy those two, paste them into Rayman. And this is exactly what I mean. When I ripped my disk today, I was quite surprised how many bin files it generated. And yes, very annoying. So we're going to convert all of these irritating bin files to .chd. So .bat, and here we go. So like I say, we can actually see the progress is making just here. So a game like R-Type Delta is a fairly small size, but for bigger games, likely Final Fantasy 7, 8 and 9, those are going to take a little bit more time because there's 4 discs, 3 or 4 discs with each one of those games. Yo, T-Dog! Yeah, Donovan, I highly recommend CHDman. In fact, I'm going to show you in a second how much space we've actually saved. So once Rayman is finished converting the .chd, in fact, we can see it just here. So that's around 700 megabyte. So say 700 megabyte for Rayman. We just minimize this and find the CHD file which just generated. We can see it just here. It's going up in numbers. And is that finished? Okay, so from 700 megabyte, I've actually got Rayman down to just under 400 megabyte by the seams of it. So again, what I'm going to do is Control and A, highlight everything, left click on CHD, and delete everything there. So that's it. So we got both of the games now, R-Type Delta and CHD, and we got Rayman, obviously. Okie dokes. So what I'm going to do is actually go and look at the BIOS situation first. So obviously for certain systems, especially CD-based systems, we need BIOS files. So what we're going to do is in the Retroarch directory, we're going to go down to System. And this is where your BIOS files go. Now, I looked on the SwanStation wiki and I identified which BIOS files we need. And this is normally the best way around establishing which BIOS files is the best to use. So, SwanStation, which is the core I'm using, and if we just scroll down, in here we go, recognize BIOS images. So I've got those images, and if you've got those images and they're renamed to something completely different, just change them to how SwanStation accepts them. So anyways, we got the BIOS files, and they're going to be dragged and dropped into the Retroarch system folder. It is, Donovan. Totally recommend it. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we got our BIOS files set up for PS1, which go in the system folder. And we've also set up a games folder, and we got a PS1 folder inside of here. So what we're going to do next then is actually import PS1. We've also got our SwanStation core, which I might add is in your cores folder. Here it is. So let's open up Retroarch, and let me just remind you, when I open this up, it's going to open in window mode. Okie dokes. So we need to import this. I don't know, Weeble. I've had them on my computer. I extracted my BIOS files from my PlayStation 1 a little while back. I'm not sure about looking for BIOS files, to be honest with you, online. Excuse me. Okay, so we got our games, and we're going to import them so we can see them in Retroarch. So we're going to scroll down to import content, and then we're going to head over to the other side, down to manual scan, press A. Now, the thing we're going to do here is press A on content directory, and we need to tell Retroarch where to find those games. So C drive for me, and from here, I'm going to go down to users right at the bottom. If we go inside users, my system folder is here called Jamie. We go in there, and from here, we're going to find desktop. If we go inside desktop, this is going to display all the contents on my desktop. Okay, so obviously my Retroarch folder is on my desktop. So here's Retroarch. Now I added a games folder into Retroarch directory just a minute ago, and that can be found here. And here's my PS1 folder. If I go in there, I'm going to scan this directory. If I press A on this, and I'm going to press up on my D-pad and press A on start scan. Scan complete. If I then press B to come out, now at the bottom we're going to find PS1, R-Type Delta, and Rayman. Awesome stuff. And let me just remind everyone watching, I always accept donations for the hard work I put into my channel. So there you go, just a bit of advertising there. So here we go. We got PS1 now set up. We got our games imported. What can I show you next? Let's actually try and run one of these games. So I'm going to choose, let's go for Rayman. If I press A to select this, we can actually go down to set core association. With Retroarch, over time, you're going to develop lots of different cores you've downloaded. And if I just go to run this, it will just say Swan Station. But normally, if you've got lots of cores, it's going to give you a long list. If you want to get rid of that, just go down to set core association and then select the Swan Station core. Press A, and then go to run. And profit, we're in. Let me remind you as well, in Retroarch, we can actually fast forward. If I press spacebar, look at that. You know what, I was in hospital in the mid-90s. I think, yeah, it was the tonsils I had. And my mum and dad's came in with a PlayStation at the time, which was fairly new at the time, with Rayman and Worms. Pretty cool. Okay, so obviously PlayStation had memory cards with units on. Yeah, pretty cool. So obviously PlayStation had memory cards, such as just here. Now on the real PlayStation back in the day, you'd obviously insert the memory cards into one of the ports on the front. Obviously we don't do that on the modern day computer, do we? So Retroarch does that for you with files. So use memory card, press A. And choose a game. So I'm going to select start on the first. Just type in something random. So you know, Rayman, that is one solid game. It really is. So you had this Rayman game on the Atari Jaguar at the time, and what else did you have it on? It came out on Sega Saturn, and I'm pretty sure the PC, or it would have been Windows 95 DOS back then, also had it, I believe. I think even the Game Boy Advance had a port of it at some point. Okay, so as we can see, PlayStation 1 is working very nicely, very fluid, it's not lagging yet. Yeah, man. You know, I was actually looking at the prices of SSDs the other day. I can't think name them. NVMe's, modern day hard drives. They're pretty expensive, but they're very fast. In fact, I use one in my laptop and it really is lightning fast, but very expensive. Okay, so this is a Retroarch quick menu just here. Now, I've accessed this by pressing on my Google Stadia button. If you've got a PlayStation controller, like someone mentioned, PS5, it'll quite likely open up with the PlayStation button. If you can't access it through one of your buttons on your controller, if you press F1 on your keyboard, that'll bring you into the Retroarch quick menu. It was parallax scrolling, definitely C64 all the way for parallax scrolling. Flimbo's Quest, that really was mind-blowing for the time that was written. So, let's say with a game, you want to save it. And of course, we realise at this point that Retroarch has its own way of saving things. For example, if I got to say level 20 in a game and it's saved, I can open it just like I would a real PlayStation game. Okay, we've also got save and load states in Retroarch quick menu. If I go down to save states, state slot, you've got 1,000 slots here. If I leave this to 0, go to save state, press A. Yeah, there is technology changes so quickly. It's a bit hard sometimes to keep up nowadays with how fast things move. So anyway, back into the Retroarch quick menu. If we go to load state and press A. Okay, so everything's good just there. Everything's set up, save and load states. Now, what I'm going to do next, and what I should have done before, is actually show you how to customize Retroarch itself. If I just go to close content and press B to come out, what we can do is actually customize the background and everything else in Retroarch. It looks a little bit bland. Let's just increase the size of this window a bit. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So if we go to settings and down to up to user interface and scroll down to menu. Now this is currently set to Ozone, how it always is when you start up Retroarch for the first time. Let's just put this on XMB, which I think is the best modern look. Press A, then come back out, up to main menu. And from here, down to configuration file, save current configuration, press B to come out. Now for XMB to appear, we need to restart it. So press A on, and here we go. So we got that PS3 look, which looks a hell of a lot better. So things look a little bit different, but pretty much everything's the same. So you've got the same settings, it's just laid out differently. Okay, now something else we can do with this is actually add our own background. And I'm going to show you how to do this. If I just go down to quit, and what I'm going to do is go on Google and look for an image. So I can't think of something random. Let's go for Robocop wallpaper. Okay, it's classic Robocop 1987 picture just here. If I save the image as, this is a web. What I'm looking for is preferably a 1080p JPEG image or wallpaper. So that looks like from the modern game. Don't really want that. I want to go for, okay, how about Robocop 2? So Robocop 2, 1920 by 1080, which is 1080p. Save image as. And this is in JPEG, which is fine. If I just change the file name to, say, Robocop 2, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. Save. Okay. Yo, scores. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is just bear with me a sec. Yeah, you know what, Donovan? I'm still debating if Robocop 2 was actually a great film. It was, and it wouldn't, but it definitely can't beat the original one. One of my favourites of all time. Okay. So here we go. So we got Robocop 2.jpg, and like I was saying, this is in 1080p, and it's a JPEG. So in my Retroarch, in assets folder, I've got a wallpapers folder. My thoughts on VR is it's a great idea, and I'd like to say it's a bit of a fad, but I don't think it is. You can, yeah, I don't think it's a fad nowadays. So, uh, personally, I had the PSVR when it came out, or near enough when it came out. I got it cheap at the time on a Black Friday sale, black market, and I paid a really good price for it, and it was really good, but it made me really ill. My kids at the time, they loved it, like really liked it, but me, I just couldn't get into it. My son at the moment, he's got Oculus Quest apparently. Okay, so in your assets in wallpapers folder, this is where you should drag your images. Now, if we open up Retroarch again, trouble is with, you could argue that the Virtual Boy was better than modern day virtual reality technology. So, so let's open up Retroarch, and from here, I'm going to actually use that Robocop image as the background of Retroarch. So if I just expand this, and I'm going to go over to user interface. If I press A on this one and just drop down to appearance, if I press A, and from here, I'm going to go down to background image and press A, and you'll find the wallpapers folder in here. And here's my Robocop 2 JPEG image I've just downloaded. If I press A, and here we go, we now got Robo in that very odd metallic, purple metallic armor, which, yeah, even as a kid, I thought the bodysuit Paul Weller wore was a little bit too purpley, very, very metallic compared to the first film from 1987. So here's our Robocop. Awesome stuff. And if we go down to, if we got the shader pipeline, I press A, we can put a bit of ribbon, and there we go. We got a little bit of smoke. Let's just pretend this is some sort of chemical from Nuke. If you watch Robocop 2, you know what Nuke is all about. So okay, so we got ribbon, we got simple snow. So Merry Christmas, everyone from Detroit. We've also got snow. So you know what? That actually looks pretty funky against that wall in the background of Robocop. Don't look too bad. We got bokeh. So yeah, looks like Robocop is now disco dancing from the 70s with the Bee Gees. Or we can just turn it off altogether. Personally, I quite like the snow effect just here. Okay, other things we can do to customize how Retroarch looks. Bear with me a sec. Get back onto this in a sec. Nuke the drug, yes. Bear with me. Just reading through some of these messages just here. Change the text, okay. Okie dokes. So, changing the text, what we're going to do that is get my bearings. Just scroll down to font. And this is the issue of doing live things. You've got to just sometimes, what am I doing? Font, here we Now, obviously, within that folder, I don't actually have any fonts to use, but that's how you do it. And you would go into that folder in a similar way as your wallpapers folder. So to change the font then, we would go over to the settings and user interface. And if you just scroll down, whoops, user interface, appearance, And from appearance, just down to font. So as we know, in my font, I've got several folders here. And if I go inside of GLUI, this is the only font I've got in there. So I can't change the fonts. What I can do is actually change the color of the font. So font color. Actually, if I go up to font color, it says red on there. If I put this down a touch, and as I decrease the numbers, you can see that the color is now changing. So more of a green color, and then font color green. Again, it's going to be the same situation. If we change the numbers here, this is how you do it. Now, finding a solid black color could take you a little while, I think. So, okay, let's get it somewhere where I can actually read. Okay, we'll leave it like that for now. Okay, the next thing, you can download fonts. I'm actually going to give this a go, Donovan. So, to change the fonts, to be honest with you, I've never actually tried this, but we're going to give it a go. Now, if I go up into my assets folder in Retroarch, GLUI, and here's my font. So, you can make the fonts look bigger too. So the font we need is .ttf. Now, like I said, I've never tried this before, so I'm going to try and milk this. Let's just go and look for font. So font.ttf, wasn't it? Free downloads. Most popular fonts. Let's see, font space. Like I say, I really have no idea if this is going to work. So let's just download this font, Fluff Plush, A-top font, and here we go. Now this font is a .ttf. We are learning together. To be honest with you, it's not actually something I've ever thought about looking. So I'm sort of glad you did actually, because it's kind of like, well, made things a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to drag that font inside of that assets GLUI folder. And what I'm going to do now is back in Retroarch, I'm going to go back to user interface, appearance, and back down to font, GLUI. Now here's the font I've just put inside of that folder. And it's actually worked. It's actually worked, man. Cool. Yeah, I'm very impressed with that. And so should you be. So that's just one font. The pressure's not on. I've just sorted the issue. But anyways, that's how you do it. Now we got this weird, fluffy font look with snow, with Robocop in the background. Yeah, bit of an odd combination. So, anyway, for those who want to change font in Retroarch, that's how you do it. So, JamieE, the thing is with RetroPie, presuming you're using a Raspberry Pi for that, which, well, you likely are, yeah, you're pretty limited with Retroarch. And in fact, sorry, I think it's actually Lacquer on Raspberry Pi because it's Linux, but I could be wrong. But if it's Lacquer, then yeah, it's pretty much a cut down version. So yeah, Donovan, no worries, and thank you very much for suggesting that. I've learned something, and you've learned something tonight. Okie dokes. So where were we? So what I'm going to do next is show you how to actually customize the logos. So at the top we got the Invader from Space Invaders, and we got this and that. Let me show you what I mean. If we go to user interface, appearance, and if we just scroll down, we're going to go to icon theme. If I press A to go in here, this is very, very cool. If I select, say, retro system, press A. If I then back out by pressing B, and I now need to save. So I'm going to go to configuration file, save current configuration. Now for these icons to take effect, we need to restart Retroarch. So there you go. So we have now got hexagon icons, which looks pretty snazzy. And it, like I say, it's quite impressive what we can actually do with Retroarch. Hello, Gaming Rules. How you doing? So for those who's just joined, the whole thing's been recorded, obviously, and you can catch up with it later on. But let me just give you a quick rundown. What I've done so far is downloaded a portable version of Retroarch. I've swapped it to the XMB menu. I've just changed fonts, changed color of fonts, changed icons to custom icons, and obviously we've got Robocop now in the background, which I've changed, and we've got the snow effect. And I've also added PlayStation 1 and set up a game for that. So next thing we are going to do, let me just check my list of things to do for the video. Now then, we can actually download free games in Retroarch. So to do this, and some of these games are actually worthwhile. Exactly, Donovan. It looks pretty good. And, you know, just use your imagination. Yeah, what I've just set up here is just a mess. It looks good, but it's a mess. But, you know, with a bit of imagination, you can really make this look really amazing. So free games, what we're going to do is, to download free games, is we're going to go down to Online Updater, and we are going to scroll down. No, we're not. We're going to go up to Core Downloader. No. Right, let me start this again on the spot now. We're going to go... we're going to go down to Online Updater. And from here, there's so many options in Retroarch. And with this font in Robocop in the snow, everything's very distracting. We're going to go to Content Downloader. If I press A on this, and we can download some free games here. If we scroll down, I'm going to download Doom, which is a classic. And this is, I believe, the original PC version. If I download Doom shareware.zip, here we go. So just let that extract, and it's just done that. Now, if I back out, I also need to download a core for this to work. So I'm going to go to Online Updater, Core Downloader, and we are going to download, I'm pretty sure it's this one, PR Boom. Core installed. Okay, now let me get my bearings with this. Okay, so we're going to go to Load Core. We want Doom. Bear with me a sec. Sorry, I think it's Load Content. And from Load Content, is it downloads? Yeah, go into downloads, Doom. And we want Doom 1.1. I might have got this ass around face, but yeah, Emulation Station Desktop Edition is very good. So again, I apologise for a little slip-ups there, but like I said, this is live and yeah, it's a bit impossible to edit stuff. So I'm using my controller with this. You can actually do that, Retro Jimmy. I did a video a while back on DOS package. You can download it. Was Exodus 6, something like a 700 gigabyte download, and it's based on the Launchbox front end. So I'm gonna have a break a minute, and I'm gonna play a bit of Doom. I'm gonna give my mouth a bit of a rest. It's my jaw is aching where I'm speaking so much. Yeah, Doom 64. I never got into that one. You know what? I remember when Doom made a comeback, probably 10 years ago. I remember all the kids at the time on YouTube, they were used to playing COD, MW, whatever you call these games, the way you say the Call of Duty games. And the trailer for the Doom remake came out, and you got all these little kids in the comments saying, "Oh my god, that's pretty extreme." It's like, yeah man, welcome to gaming. And what are they playing nowadays? Fortnite. It's like, nah. Yeah, Gloom. Gloom. There was Gloom on the Amiga. I played that one as well. There was a lot of Doom rip-offs, you know, obviously years ago. Even the Star Wars Dark Forces game. Obviously Duke Nukem and Wolfenstein. Awesome stuff. But to me, for old school classic FPS games, Doom all the way. Absolute classic. Never gets boring. Okay, so I've just exited that game by pressing my Google Stadia button. Like I say, if you're using a PlayStation controller, then just press your PS button. Or you can press F1 on your keyboards to access the Retroarch quick menu. Yeah, Engage, it was bit of a blast from the past. I do remember when the Engage came out, and it wasn't really taken seriously too much at the time. I remember a shop in Bristol where I lived at the time called Game Station advertising it. And it was a good idea, but it didn't take off. It was, I think it was maybe released beyond it, before its time, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So what we can do from now is I'm going to quit out of Retroarch. Now, something I've not actually covered yet is playing about with video settings. So what I'm going to do is open up Retroarch actually again. And I am going to open up Retroarch. Now, I'm going to open up the PlayStation game again. So I'm going to load content. And where's my playlist? Okay, I'm going to open up the R-Type Delta game this time. If I set Core Association, okay, and just remember on Retroarch we can actually fast forward things by pressing spacebar. Just going to get to the game a minute. Okay, Polygon-tastic from the 90s. Okay, let's play around with video settings. Once we're playing a game, the easiest way to do this is just by going into the Retroarch quick menu. And what we can do from here is under the settings, if we go down to video, We go down to scaling. We can change aspect ratio from core provided, which is 4:3 pretty much, to full. And if I go back into the game, so quick menu and resume. Now what I'm going to do is actually set Retroarch in full screen. So video is output. Getting a little bit confused now because I changed it around, obviously in XMB at the moment. Full screen mode, starting full screen. Here we go. If I go back into the game, normally if I didn't set this to full screen, it would play with black bars on the sides. Okay, so as we can see, it's in full screen. We can actually play around with video settings further. So what I need to do is go back to quick menu. I'm going to go to video, scaling. And if I enable integer scale overscale, and if I then go back into the game, quick menu, resume, you'll notice that it's not so pixelated and it don't look so dirty. It looks a little bit more cleaned up. Okay, so that's one method of cleaning up pixelated PlayStation games. Now, what we can do is actually use bezels or overlays. To do this, we're going to go to Online Updater, select that by pressing A, and if we scroll down, Update Overlays, I'm going to press A on this, and I'm also going to update slang shaders. And the shader slang, it does take a little while to extract. Okay, so that's done. What we need to do is actually go into quick menu, and if I scroll down, I'm going to find on-screen overlay. If I select this and turn it on, overlay preset, I'm going to press A to enter this, and we're going to go into borders. We got PSX animated border. If I press A, and just press A on PSX animated border.cfg. Now, if I go back into the game and resume, and as you can see, we've got the overlay applies just there, but the problem is that we've got set this to full screen. So if we drop down, if we go to video rather, which is under settings, and we go to scaling, aspect ratio, I'm going to put this back to how it was core provided. And if I come out and out again, quick menu, and I'm also going to go back down to on-screen overlay and go down to overlay opacity. And just a minute ago during that gameplay, you'll see the overlay was transparent. If I put this one up to the last, which is 1.00, the transparency will disappear and the overlays will become solid. So press B, quick menu, resume. So obviously, if you know what R-Type is, classic 1980s arcades gaming, this particular one for PS1 doesn't even compare with the original, so forget it. Okay, something else we've actually got is mega bezels, or bezels. Now, what we need to do to enable this is we are going to, firstly, on-screen overlay, I'm going to turn this back off. If I press B to come out, I am then going to go down to shaders and turn this on. Load preset, shader slang, and we got a bezel folder just here amongst many other folders, border for example. If I, for this, go to bezel, and 2 folders in here, I've got mega bezel. If I go into this one and go to presets, I've got lots of different files here. Now, I always say this in my videos, if we start with 0 and gradually go up to number 5, 0 tells you it's not going to be so hard to wear on your computer. If I use number 5 or 4, it'll push the hardware a little bit further, bit more strain on your hardware. I'm going to go for a advanced glass. If I press A, your computer will appear to freeze, as you can see right now. What it's actually doing, it's not frozen at all. It's actually applying that setting. So leave this for a couple of minutes, well, a minute. And yeah, let me just remind anyone watching this that I always accept donations and it goes towards the channel. There's bits and pieces of videos I do. I actually need to pay for a particular software I've used in the past. And actually the microphone I'm using right now was actually purchased with some money someone sent me to improve the channel. Anyways, so that's now been loaded in. If we go back into the game, resume. Now, technically, to use mega bezels or anything like that, it's said that you need to have your video driver on Vulkan. It also works fine on OpenGL. Now, let's just go to quick menu, to settings, video, output, video driver to use. If you get any issues with using mega bezels, make sure Vulkan's on. But for this, D3D11 is working fine anyways. But if you get any issues, technically it should be Vulkan or GL Core. Okay, so we got the mega bezel applied, and we can actually use overlay to go with it too. If we go down to if we go to on-screen overlay, turn this back on, and I am going to use the PlayStation border again. Overlay opacity, I'm going to whack back up to 1.00. And what I'm going to do is actually show you how to save all these settings so we don't lose them. And in fact, if we save these settings correctly, provided you're happy with them, other PlayStation games will load up with the same settings. It's generally under overrides. If we go to overrides, and we need to go to save core overrides for this. Let's go back into the game. So that's one way of applying overlays and mega bezels. We can actually manually use other mega bezels which have been made through the community, which are very cool. Some of them's very impressive. Now, whilst I'm talking of PlayStation, obviously there's games which require up to 4 discs, say Final Fantasy VII. It's going to get to a point in the game, and people have asked me this many times in the past, how do you swap games, swap game discs? Very simple. So say we're playing this game, let's just get back to it. What we need to do, if a game asks you for disc 2, if we just go into the Retroarch quick menu, we're going to go down to disk control. And what we need to do is load new disk. Now, providing you've got the other files for the game itself, so for example, we'll say Final Fantasy VII, you'll obviously select disk 2. It's pretty much that simple. And then it's something along the lines of ejecting disk and inserting new disk will appear, something along those lines. But to be honest, I don't play PlayStation 1 games which have several discs. Even Amiga games is pretty much done through disk control. But again, I don't use multiple files for Amiga games. You know, there's for Amiga, there's WHD load games. So what I'm going to do actually from here is go to configuration file, save current configuration. Okay, so we got lots of new comments appear since I've been in full screen mode. And yeah, so somewhere I heard about per game overlays bezels. Yeah, you can do that. It's not a myth. Yeah, so a game like Resident Evil. Not sure. I did the director's cut of Resident Evil 1 back in the day. I remember buying it in Bristol in a WH Smith, and it was £30. Really random memory that. Resident Evil 2 actually had two discs. Was it a Leon disc and a Claire disc? It's been a while. But anyways, generally that's how you swap discs over, pretty easy. Right, very briefly, WinUAE in FSUE is really down to preference. So FSUAE is a fork of WinUAE. WinUAE is a lot more technical. FSUAE is more about the glossy side of things, especially if you're using arcade mode. So if you want an easy life, then use FSUAE. Leon and Claire, yeah, it's been probably since the late 90s. I last seen those discs, but memory still there. I got a very good memory. I remember a lot of things. So yeah, definitely, 100% FSUAE for easier life. Don't forget, you've also got Amiga Forever. That's also very good. You've got Winfellow as well, if you're interested in Amiga emulation. Winfellow is it's been around a little while, but it's actually getting somewhere. It's pretty good. You've got Amiga Game Selector, which someone mentioned earlier on. I think that was Weeble. And in fact, talking to Weeble, it's just said to press F for full screen. And there you go. Yeah, thank you for that. I now know how to do that. Okay. And I was going to do Commodore 64, but I actually run over time with this stream tonight. I was actually planning on going for an hour-ish. So, yeah, an hour and 8 minutes. So, yeah, I was going to move on to Commodore 64, but I spent more time on setting up PlayStation 1 in all the customization than I planned to be honest. But what I've learned myself actually from tonight is how to change fonts. So, like I said, yeah, cheers, Weeble, nice one. And yeah, so as I was saying, there's the font situation, which I actually learned myself tonight. I didn't even think about ever looking into that. But hopefully, everything there is good for you. If you joined it halfway through this video, obviously that's going to stay on my channel and you can watch that again. And if you are new to Retroarch, then I've got a whole playlist on Retroarch for specific setup guides. So I'm going to call that a night, and I will see everyone again. And thanks everyone for watching. Yeah. So have a good weekend, everyone, and stay retro.